meters underwater. It is pitch black. You have maybe 30 seconds of oxygen left in your tank.
Oh man, just thinking about that makes my chest tight.
Right. And the pressure outside your fragile little submersible is literally enough to crush a titanium hull like an empty soda can.
Yeah, which is just a terrifying mental image.
It totally is. And then, echoing through the ink-black water, you hear a roar that vibrates right through your ribcage.
Yep, the classic nightmare scenario.
Exactly. So welcome to the premier deep dive into the mind of a survivor. Today, we are immersing ourselves in 4546b.
That is the oceanic alien planet that serves as the setting for the Subnautica trilogy, for those who might not know the exact designation.
Right, right. Our mission today is to synthesize gameplay analysis, psychological theory, deep lore, and honestly, the shared trauma of millions of players.
So much shared trauma.
Seriously, we really want to understand exactly why this specific digital ocean rewires the human brain in ways that traditional horror properties can literally only dream of.
You know, the psychology of this is just endlessly fascinating to me.
Why is that? I mean, beyond the obvious giant sea monsters.
Well, because Subnautica is not, by any traditional metric or marketing campaign, a horror game. Like, it doesn't present itself as one.
No, not at all. The cover art is all bright blue water and weird, cute little fish.
Exactly. It presents itself as this bright, vibrant survival crafting experience, yet it sits firmly on almost every single list of the most terrifying digital experiences ever created.
Yeah, it really does. People talk about it like it gave them actual PTSD.
And it achieves this by completely bypassing the cheap jump scares of modern media. It taps directly into a very specific set of primal evolutionary fears.
Oh, you mean like thalassophobia?
Yes, primarily that. Thalassophobia being the profound, often paralyzing fear of the deep ocean, but also kenophobia.
Genophobia. That's the fear of empty spaces, right?
Spot on. It's the psychological aversion to vast, empty, featureless spaces, which the open ocean has in spades.
Yeah, and the brilliance of the game is in this, well, this massive psychological bait and switch it pulls on you right at the start.
Oh, the opening sequence is a masterclass in deception.
It really is. Yeah. The experience opens with this incredibly high-intensity crisis. The massive colony ship you're on, the Aurora, is violently torn out of orbit.
Sirens blaring, fire everywhere.
Right. You crash land in a tiny life pod. But when you finally climb out of the hatch and dive into the water, you aren't greeted by nightmares.
No, you drop straight into the safe shallow.
Exactly, the safe shallows. It is practically a tropical aquarium. The water is crystal clear, the coral is brightly colored.
The fish are somewhat comical and totally harmless.
Yeah, it just completely forces your guard down. It lures you into this massive false sense of security.
So that when you finally push past the safety of that reef and encounter your first Reaper Leviathan, the shock isn't just frightening.
No, it is soul-shattering. It just wrecks you.
You are experiencing the fundamental difference between horror and terror right there. It is a distinction that actually dates back to the pioneers of Gothic literature.
Wait, really? Like, who?
Well, Anne Radcliffe famously argued about this. She said that horror is the physical shock that annihilates the mind's faculties.
So, like the monster jumping out of the closet, the jump scare.
Exactly. But terror is the agonizing suspense that expands the soul.
Wow, that perfectly describes the vibe of 4546b.
It really does. Subnautica is a masterclass in terror. It completely weaponizes the unknown. It forces you to stare into the murky depths and just imagine what is looking back at you.
And it takes our actual biological realities and turns them against us. Like our absolute reliance on a steady supply of oxygen.
Right, our soft, fragile mammal bodies.
Yeah, and our total lack of natural defenses. It turns all of that into the primary sources of tension.
And crucially, the developers committed to a non-violent design philosophy, which is so rare.
It is. You never get to experience that traditional power fantasy where you eventually build a big enough gun to conquer the environment.
You never climb to the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
You remain prey from the first minute to the very last.
So when that Reaper Leviathan roars, it is not just cool atmospheric sound design. It is using sonics as an actual hunting tool.
Yes. If you can hear its roar, the Reaper knows exactly where you are.
Which is horrifying. But I mean, the human mind cannot sustain absolute terror indefinitely, right? You just turn the game off.
Exactly. The genius of the design is how it facilitates overcoming that paralysis. It acts like a digital form of exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy. How so?
Yeah.
Like by forcing you to go deeper.
Well, yes, but you start incredibly small. You scan a tiny peeperfish, you gather a piece of kelp.
Oh, I see. By doing that, you are sort of quantifying the world.
Right. You are participating in this ancient archetypal ritual of forming order out of chaos. It actually mirrors the Babylonian myth of Marduk.
Marduk, the hero who fought the sea monster.
Yes, Marduk the hero who split the body of the chaotic salt sea monster Tiamat to literally construct the earth and sky.
Oh, wow. So by scanning an alien creature, you take a terrifying, unknowable threat and neurologically reclassify it as a known risk.
Exactly. You quantify the monster. You put it in a box your brain can handle.
And that drive to quantify and master the chaos is exactly what pushes the player forward. Which, by the way, completely reframes the context of the recently released Subnautica 2.
Oh, absolutely. The paradigm has completely shifted there.
Yeah, releasing literally just a couple of days ago on May 14th, 2026. We are no longer playing as a lone, terrified survivor of a catastrophic crash.
No, we arrive on a new world as pioneers. The stakes are so much higher.
We are now actually modifying our own human DNA to physically adapt to the crushing depths. It's wild.
The fear of the ocean remains absolute, but we now have the tools to survive it and even challenge it.
Yeah, and challenge it together in 4-player co-op, which changes everything.
It really does. The overarching narrative arc of this entire universe is a journey from profound isolation to radical connection.
From being an insignificant footnote in a massive planetary quarantine to becoming the pivotal force that cures a dying world.
That is a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks. But to really understand how 4546b achieves all of this, we need to look at the evolutionary biology of the human brain.
Right. If you are sitting in your living room or driving your car right now, your brain is comfortable because it is in its element.
We are terrestrial mammals through and through.
Exactly. The moment the water closes over your head in this simulation, it immediately weaponizes your own biology against you.
So how does that work on a neurological level?
Well, the human brain has a highly specialized alarm system when it comes to respiration. When you are underwater, the panic you feel isn't actually triggered by a lack of oxygen.
Wait, really? What is it triggered by then?
It is triggered by hypercapnia. That's the buildup of carbon dioxide in your bloodstream.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, your brainstem detects that rising acidity and fires off an overwhelming involuntary panic response. The simulation expertly mimics this biological tether.
Because you don't have gills, you just have this digital gauge ticking down representing that rising CO2.
And the punishment for letting it fill is mathematically brutal. Have you ever timed it?
The drowning animation.
Yes. If that oxygen meter hits 0, the screen fades to black in precisely 4 seconds.
4 seconds. That is so fast. I mean, compare that to literally any other survival experience on the market.
Right. If your character is starving or dying of thirst in a forest survival game, the game gives you a massive grace period.
Yeah, your health bar just chips away over several minutes. You have plenty of time to panic, to sprint around, to scavenge for berries.
But 4546b denies you that grace entirely. 4 seconds is the exact biological window between maintaining consciousness and irreversible drowning.
And it gets worse. Because as you venture deeper, the efficiency of your oxygen tanks actually drops.
Physics acting against you once again.
Right, so a tank that gave you 3 minutes at the surface might only give you maybe 90 seconds at 300 meters down. You are constantly calculating your own lung capacity against the geometry of an alien cave system.
And the psychological pressure of that calculation is just immense.
I can imagine. Or, well, I've felt it playing the game.
Right, when you are exploring a winding subterranean cavern and you suddenly realize you only have 45 seconds of oxygen left.
The physical distance between you and the surface becomes this oppressive, tangible weight.
Every single micro decision you make, do I grab this piece of lithium? Do I take the time to scan this plant? It must be weighed against the literal ticking clock of your respiratory survival.
But honestly, as bad as the caves are, the open water is arguably even more psychologically damaging. Which brings us back to kenophobia.
Let's think about how the brain naturally maps physical space. On land, even in a terrifying dark forest, your parietal lobe has data to work with.
Like you have a tree to put your back against.
Exactly. You have a boulder to hide behind. You have a horizon line to orient yourself.
But the open ocean strips away all of that geographic grounding. There's absolutely no cover. There's just an infinite blue void.
And the architectural design of the world intentionally exploits this spatial disorientation. The developers made the frankly terrifying decision to omit a physical world edge.
Oh, I hate the edge of the map in this game. In most digital spaces, if you wander too far, you just bump into an invisible barrier or a steep mountain range you can't climb.
But here, if you swim past the designated ecological zones, you don't hit a wall, you hit the crater edge, the dead zone.
The seabed just simply drops away into an absolute bottomless abyss.
Staring down into a space where light ceases to exist triggers profound vertigo. Your brain cannot calculate the depth, so it just inherently assumes infinite danger.
It's like trying to visualize walking across an invisible tightrope, suspended completely in midair.
That's a great analogy.
Right? You weren't just worried about losing your balance. You were suspended in a medium where a predator can attack from a complete 360-degree spherical plane.
A threat doesn't just come from the left or the right anymore.
Exactly. It can drop on you from directly above or rush up at a terrifying speed from the absolute blackness beneath your flippers.
Evolutionarily speaking, human eyes face forward to track prey on a flat, two-dimensional plane. We simply do not have the neurological hardware to track threats in a fully 3D fluid environment.
Which creates a really fascinating paradox when you attempt to seek shelter. The open ocean is horrifying because of its infinite exposure.
Right. So the natural human instinct is to find a structure to hide in.
Exactly. So you find a sunken piece of the Aurora wreckage, and you swim inside, thinking the solid metal walls will provide safety.
But the environment instantly flips the script on you again. It replaces the kenophobia with intense claustrophobia and submechanophobia.
Submechanophobia, that's the specific revulsion toward submerged artificial objects, right?
Yes. And exploring those wrecks is a complete nightmare.
You literally trade the fear of the open ocean for the terror of a labyrinth. You are squeezing through these mangled air ducts.
Live wires are sparking in the water all around you.
The emergency lights cast these long, distorted, creepy shadows. You completely lose your sense of up and down.
And all the while, that oxygen timer is ruthlessly counting down in the corner of your eye.
Taking a single wrong turn in the dark doesn't just mean you are lost. It means you are trapped in a flooded metal coffin.
And the behavior of light underwater compounds this spatial panic significantly.
Oh, the lighting engine in this game is incredible, but so stressful.
Because the simulation adheres so closely to the real-life physics of Rayleigh scattering and light absorption, water is incredibly dense compared to air.
So as you descend, the water column actually filters out the spectrum of sunlight.
First the reds disappear, then the yellows, until absolutely everything is bathed in this sickly, monochromatic blue.
And eventually the sunlight is entirely choked out by sediment and sheer depth. You are plunged into absolute physiological blindness.
Which naturally forces you to use artificial light. You pull out a flashlight or you flip on the high beams of your Ceave submersible.
But light in the abyss is not a shield, it is a beacon.
Very much so.
By illuminating the 20 meters in front of you, you have painted a glowing target on your back that can be seen for miles in the pitch black.
It creates a brilliant double bind for the player. Your visual cortex is screaming for light so it can process the environment and feel safe.
But your higher reasoning knows that turning on the light advertises your exact coordinates to every apex predator in the biome.
You have to constantly toggle between terrifying blindness and terrifying exposure. There is no winning.
And because you are functionally blind, running out of air, and constantly exposed, the complete absence of traditional video game weaponry pushes the tension to its absolute breaking point.
Let's talk about that. The gun control design philosophy of this universe fundamentally alters the DNA of survival horror.
Now, we need to be clear about the real-world origin of this mechanic. We are not taking a political side here, just to be very clear to you listening. We are simply reporting on the developers' stated motivations.
Right, absolutely.
The developers at Unknown Worlds made a deliberate choice to omit firearms. They stated this was motivated by the tragedy at Sandy Hook. They wanted to prove they could make a compelling game without guns.
And analyzing this purely from a game design and psychological perspective, the removal of lethal firearms strips the player of the ultimate safety blanket.
It totally forces a pacifist playstyle. Your only real weapon is a survival knife, which does pitiful damage to anything larger than a peeper.
Even later in the experience, when you construct the Cyclops,
The massive submarine.
exactly, a massive, heavily armored submarine, it still doesn't come equipped with torpedoes that destroy threats. It has a decoy system.
Or you can install a perimeter defense module on your smaller ship. But that just delivers a localized electric shock to make a predator flinch and let go of your hull. You never gain the ability to clear a room.
Contrast this with the absolute titan of the survival genre, Minecraft.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison.
In Minecraft, a creeper or a zombie is a threat, yes, but it is ultimately a resource node. Combat is a challenge you are meant to win.
Right, when you kill the monster, it drops gunpowder or experience points.
You are structurally rewarded for engaging in violence, which reinforces your status as the apex predator of that digital ecosystem.
But in Subnautica, combat is not a challenge to be won. It is purely an experience to survive.
Killing a Leviathan yields no rewards, no loot, no extra capabilities. You get nothing but a sore finger from spam clicking your mouse. This intentionally prevents the player from ever feeling like the apex predator.
Okay, I have to push back on this just a little bit, though.
Oh, how so?
Because, theoretically, players can kill a Reaper. And if you go on YouTube or Reddit, you see players going completely out of their way to do it.
Using the stasis rifle and the thermal blade?
Exactly. They will freeze it in a stasis bubble and slash it with a tiny knife for like 20 minutes. Or they exploit mechanics by dropping toxic gas cods.
Yes, that does happen.
So doesn't the fact that some players go out of their way to kill a Leviathan with a tiny knife prove that humans will do anything to reclaim a sense of control, even when the game begs them not to?
I completely agree with you. I think that emergent behavior perfectly illustrates the human desperation to assert dominance over the unknown.
Even when the system actively discourages it, our ego just can't handle being at the bottom of the food chain.
We are so profoundly uncomfortable being prey that we will painfully exploit the physics engine itself to reclaim dominance.
It's wild. But until you resort to those extreme measures, you are prey. And since you cannot fight, your only real defense is situational awareness.
Which leads perfectly into how the game uses sensory deprivation and audio design.
Yes, the sound design is arguably the scariest part of the game. Let's talk about the sound of silence.
While human brains constantly process background noise to detect threats, if you pause right now, your brain is quietly filtering out a symphony of ambient noise.
Like the hum of my fridge or cars driving by outside.
Precisely. But in Subnautica, the ocean is eerily quiet. It's filled only with ambient white noise and the distorted sound of your own breathing through the regulator.
It feels very isolating. That auditory vacuum just makes the brain hypervigilant. You are straining to hear anything.
And then you hear the Reaper Leviathan, which we touched on, but we really need to dig into the mechanics of it.
Right, the game's most iconic predator, found usually in those murky brown waters near the aurora.
Yes, and according to the internal lore, the Reaper uses echolocation to hunt.
Which is such an amazing detail. Compare the Reaper's roar to a submarine's active sonar ping in movies like The Hunt for Red October or Das Boot.
That's the perfect analogy.
If you hear the roar, you have been pinged. The sound wave has bounced off your tiny, fragile body and returned to the monster. It knows where you are.
It transforms a simple sound effect into a mechanical death sentence. The atmosphere itself becomes hostile.
And the developers use these apex predators not just as wandering hazards, but as actual structural boundaries for the game world.
This is where the Ghost Leviathan comes in.
Right. If you swim into the void, that ecological dead zone at the edge of the map we talked about, the game doesn't just put up an invisible wall.
No, it spawns these translucent, bioluminescent terrors that patrol the edge.
The ghost leviathans are huge, and they just start attacking you to force you back into bounds.
Yeah.
Mechanically, they are invisible walls, but narratively, they reinforce the terror of the deep.
You are forced back by massive predators rather than a digital turn-back text prompt on your screen. It keeps the immersion completely unbroken.
But I honestly think the most terrifying creature, even more than the Reaper or the Ghost, is the crab squid.
Oh, the crab squid is pure nightmare fuel. It perfectly weaponizes the fear of the dark.
It really does. It has this giant exposed brain and walks on tentacles. But the worst part is how it interacts with the environment.
It attacks artificial light.
Yes. If it sees your headlights, it emits a massive EMP that completely shuts down your electronics.
Your submarine's engine dies, your lights go out, your oxygen supply stops humming.
You are just left floating in absolute pitch black silence. And it forces you into a terrifying choice.
Do you leave the lights on so you can see the monster coming, knowing that the light guarantees you'll get EMP'd and attacked?
Or do you turn the lights off, sit in the absolute dark, and just pray it passes by without noticing you? It's
It's
horrifying.
brilliant design. But, the terrifying fauna of the planet are not just random monsters placed there to scare you.
No, they actually tie directly into the lore.
Hmm.
They are part of a deeply tragic and interconnected alien ecosystem that has been completely ravaged by disease.
The history of 4546b is a story of incredible hubris, specifically the hubris of the architects.
The architects. They were a highly advanced alien race that came to the planet, like 1,000 years ago?
Around that, yes. They came because they had accidentally released a pathogen known as the Kara bacterium.
And it was devastating, right? Like apocalyptic.
It killed 143 billion individuals across their core worlds, a number that is almost impossible to truly comprehend.
So they came to 4546b to build research facilities and find a cure. And they actually found one.
They discovered that the sea emperor Leviathan, the apex species of the planet, naturally produces enzyme 42, which provides total immunity to Kara.
But there was a massive tragic mistake. The architects captured a 1,600-year-old sea emperor and kept her in the primary containment facility.
Yes. She was too old to produce potent enzymes anymore. She could only watch as the architects tried to forcefully hatch her eggs.
And she is intelligent, right? Like, she actually attempts to communicate with them telepathically.
She does. She tries to tell them what the eggs need to hatch, but, as she tells the player later, they could not hear. They were too synthetic, too logical to understand her organic connection.
So the architects get desperate. They try to find other hatching conditions, and they end up stealing a sea dragon Leviathan egg for research.
A catastrophically bad idea. The enraged parent sea dragon tracked her stolen egg to the disease research facility.
And he just completely rammed it, right?
She rammed it so hard she destroyed it, sinking it to the ocean floor. But in doing so, she released the Carabacterium directly into the wild ecosystem,
prompting a massive planetary quarantine. The automated gun in the sky shoots down any ship that gets close, which is why the Aurora crashed in the first place.
Exactly. It's an entire planet locked down because of one arrogant mistake.
And the human casualties are just so sad. The isolation of the player is intense. As you explore, you find life pods from your own ship, the Aurora.
And you find the ruined bases from the Degassi crew, who crashed 10 years prior to your arrival.
And every single one of them is empty.
Finding those audio logs is so chilling. You listen to people who slowly succumb to the environment, or to the monsters, or to the Kara virus itself.
It serves to constantly remind the player of their own mortality. You are totally alone. Everyone else who tried this failed and died.
But despite that overwhelming lore of failure, and despite the terrifying predators, the game provides a psychological mechanism for you to succeed where highly advanced aliens failed.
We touched on this earlier, the exposure therapy and the scanner tool.
Right, the scanner as a psychological tool. By scanning flora, fauna, and alien tech, you are not just unlocking blueprints for your fabricator.
You are performing a ritual of understanding. It is like a nightlight for a child.
That's a perfect analogy.
A nightlight doesn't physically stop the monster under the bed. The monster could still be there, but it illuminates the dark. It strips away the power of the unknown.
Just like the myth of Marduk and Tiamat we discussed. Gathering kelp, breaking limestone for titanium, mapping the depths, it is the modern equivalent of slaying the chaos monster to build the world.
You wade into a hostile, chaotic environment, and through sheer force of will and understanding, you build a habitat. You turn chaos into order.
And in doing so, you cause the dissolution of cosmic horror.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, Lovecraftian cosmic horror relies on the absurdity and incomprehensibility of the universe. The horror comes from the fact that you cannot understand it.
But as the player learns the rules of 4546b, the cosmic dread evaporates.
Exactly. The transition from paralyzing fear cowering in your life pod on day one to mastery, where you are piloting a massive cyclops past a ghost Leviathan, acts as a virtual form of exposure therapy.
You learn the rules, so it isn't cosmic horror anymore. It's just an ecosystem.
And this mastery leads directly to the emotional climax of the game.
Which is so beautiful. You don't build a nuke. You synthesize the hatching enzymes, free the Sea Emperor babies, and cure the planet.
You succeed not through violence, but through connection, understanding, and restoring the natural balance.
And that player journey, from isolated prey to the savior of 4546b, really sets the stage for the next phases of human interaction with this universe.
Let's briefly touch on Subnautica. Below Zero. That was a major shift in tone.
Yeah, in Below Zero, you play as Robin Ayu,
Mm.
and she is actively searching for her sister Sam.
Right, she wasn't shot down by accident. And mechanically, we see the introduction of the body heat gauge on land.
Plus the presence of the architect consciousness, Alan, right inside Robin's mind.
Which is huge. It shifts the narrative from pure isolation to a complex dialogue with the very aliens who started the quarantine in the first place.
But now, everything is changing again with the release of Subnautica 2 on May 14, 2026.
The paradigm shift here is massive. We are moving from lone survivor to pioneer.
Yeah, you arrive on a whole new world, and the AI insists that the corporate mission must continue despite terrible danger.
And the new mechanics reflect that aggressive pioneering spirit. You are unlocking the ability to evolve your own genetics.
You literally modify human DNA to adapt to the depths. That is so cool.
It really is. But the biggest change psychologically is the introduction of 4-player online co-op.
How does bringing friends into a survival horror environment change the dynamic? Doesn't it make it less scary?
It changes it profoundly. Fear, fundamentally, thrives in isolation. When you are alone, your brain loops on the terror.
But with shared danger in Subnautica 2, that paralyzing terror transforms into shared ingenuity.
Exactly. It turns into adrenaline and emergent storytelling. You are no longer just surviving the depths, you are actively challenging them together.
Someone gets grabbed by a monster, and everyone starts screaming and coordinating a rescue. It's a totally different vibe.
So I want to pose a provocative thought for everyone listening to this right now.
Oh, hit us with it.
If the simple act of scanning, understanding, and naming a terrifying digital Leviathan strips away its Lovecraftian power over you,
Yeah.
what unknowable monsters in your own daily life could you defeat simply by turning on the light and examining them closely?
Wow. Exposure therapy for the real world. Just turning on the light. I love that.
It really makes you think about how we process our own anxieties.
It totally does. Well, speaking of anxieties, next we are going to get very personal.
We are looking at the Degassi survivors, right?
Yes. Paul, Bart, and Marguerite. We are going to look at how their wildly different psychological profiles and class backgrounds led to their eventual tragic fates down in the Grand Reef. You are not going to want to miss it.
It's going to be a heavy one.
For sure. See you all then.